All right, so hopefully this is the last video. I'll try to be quick. All right, so we talked about the variances. All right, so a revenue forecast is calculated using the formula sales last year's plus sales plus, okay, let's back up here. I'm going to show you something here. So this is the formula for predicting future sales. All right, so we have sales last year plus what number? The number that we need to add to sales last year is the sales last year times the increased estimate. Okay, so increased estimate would be our projected variance percentage. All right, so we want an increase of 5% this year. All right, so that is what we're talking about, right? So it would be sales last year times 0.05. Add that to sales last year, and then you end up with your forecasted amount. Okay, so another way to do it, an easier way to do it, and I'm not going to do the math today, but an easier way to do this is sales last year times 1 plus the estimated increase percentage. All right, so if I know I want 1% or a 5% increase, or we were projecting a 5% increase, I just multiply sales multiply sales last year times 1.05. I just put a 1 in front of the point. All right, that's the easiest way to do it, and that gives you your revenue forecast. All right, so let's talk about, we're going to do this the hard way because I think it's important to understand how the math works. Okay, so here we go. We have sales last year times percent increase estimate equals what we're looking for, our revenue forecast. So here we go. Sales last year is at $1,040,000. $1,040,000, right? I don't know about you, but I just assumed that the two burger sales would have just gone home and it would have been 1 million. But anyway, all right, estimated increase of sales. How do we estimate the increase? Well, there's a lot of different things. We're saying inflation is going to be 3% or whatever, but we anticipate a 5% increase in sales, all right? So here we go. Remember again what that formula was. Sales last year plus these two numbers in the parentheses equals what we're looking for. Now, going back to basic math, basic algebra for all of you, maybe some of you have forgotten about this, or maybe you never fully understood this, but whenever you have any kind of math formula and there's a parentheses, you must do the math within the parentheses first before you do any kind of additional activity. There's a math word for that, but I can't think of it. All right, so we have sales last year plus the parentheses, whatever the final number is in the parentheses equals what we're looking for. So sales last year. So we're going to put sales dash here, right? We got $1,040,000. So in here we've got the $1,040,000 times 0.05. All right. Now that's going to give us the actual increase in dollars from what a 5% increase is. All right. So last year we were $1 million. 10% of $1 million, $100,000. 5% of $1 million is $50,000. Right. So that's the increase. But sometimes we don't really care about the increase, other than what it leads to our total number projection this year. Okay. I hope I said that all right. But yeah, it's good to know that we're going to do $50,000 more in revenue, but we want to know what our total revenue is going to be, right? So it would be $1,050,000 in that instance. This is a little different because we've got that $40. All right, so here we go. So $1,040,000 plus $1 million, $1,040,000 times the increased percentage, which is 0.05, and that gives us. Okay, well, again, we have to figure out this first. So where's my calculator? And I realized my calculator, what confused me in the last screen or the last video was this particular calculator automatically converts to percentages and doesn't keep it as decimals, all right, with bigger numbers. All right, but let's do this. So we got to do the what's inside the parentheses first. So 1 million 0.040, did I get that right? Yep. Times 0.05 equals $50,000 and $50,002. That's going to be our projected increase. $50,002. All right. But to find the total of our projection revenues, we add that. So that's it right there. I guess I jumped the gun on this. I wanted to show it one at a time, but there it is. So this plus this, very simple math now. Our projected revenue this year, as opposed to what we had last year, was $1,050,042. Okay? So you can see now how this is important to see these numbers, because we need to know what we're dealing with. All right, so I'm not going to worry about that. So let's project future guest counts, exact same amount. Guest count last year plus guest count this year times the percentage increase, or again, the 1 plus increase times 1.05 or whatever. So we're going to do this math real quick. Guest count last year, 1,100 people. All right. Estimated sales increase 5%. We're the same restaurant that we were. All right. Let's see. So 11,000 people. What's going into parentheses? Going in parentheses, 11,000 times 0.05. All right. So 11 times 0.05. I'm not going to bust out the calculator, but that's $550. That's an increase. But to get the total projected number of guest count, it is now that shouldn't be a dollar sign in there. I apologize. So 11,550 people this year. Where last year we had 11,000. This year we're going to have 11,550. All right. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Predicting future sales. When used alone, sales history is not sufficient to accurately predict the future. This is something I've alluded to, but I haven't really talked about. Managers must also consider potential price changes, new competitors, facility renovations, improvements, sellings, all kinds of different factors. All kinds of different factors. A new highway was just built in there. All right. So sometimes you say, ooh, new highway means more people. Well, it also might mean less people because what? You were bypassed, right? Anybody ever watched the movie Cars? Radiator Springs died because of the highway, right? Little Disney reference. All right. So there's a lot of different factors, right? There's a lot of different factors that are going to change it. I use the example of the factory moving in. That is a big deal. All right. Hold on just a second. All right. Sorry about that. The maintenance worker came in. All right. So there's a lot of different things, right? There's many, many different things that are going to influence our sales, our sales projection. A good manager is looking for those things. A bad manager doesn't care. Okay. If we're doing this on a month-to-month thing, right? Or a week-to-week or whatever, month-to-month is a good one. But we know I used to work at a restaurant that was right next to the amphitheater. When there were events, we had an increase of sales. All right. Up until 7 o'clock. After that, we were dead. All right. Excuse me. So we look at a lot of different things. Improve selling programs. Now, one of the things that we might do is we say, okay, we're not happy where we were last year. How are we going to get better? So we come up with a plan. We do more training. We do different things. We bring in different programs that are intended to bring that. Now, we're going to not ignore that when we're projecting. And saying, yeah, all we have to go on is last year. And we're going to ignore the huge effort we've done to increase sales. So you want to take that into account. So there's a lot of different things. All right. So let's see. What's next here? Okay, that's it. All right. I want to actually go back on that. When I teach this class in person, I tell a lot of stories and stuff like that. And I'm trying to, I won't say rush these videos, but I'm trying to put them within 15 minutes. Well, I have to, because that's the limit. I don't want you to have to sit there and watch 100 different videos. But let me just talk to you about in the way that I would have if this was a classroom. All right. Projecting is a big deal. And what I said about a good manager looks at all the different things. There's a lot of different ways, and we might want to just project going into a week, right? Next week, why do we project? All right, one of the reasons why we project is because of labor. This is a big one, right? If we go into a week and we're at that restaurant that has the that's next to the amphitheater, and we hire and we schedule X amount of people because we looked at last week, right? But that has nothing to do with this week, right? We have to project more because of that event. All right. Now, when we're looking at yearly numbers, all the events kind of wash or wash because we had events last year and we have events this year. But when we're talking about week to week for things like labor and such, we have to look at our surroundings. I worked at a hotel in downtown Albany. Excuse me. I lived in Albany 20 years ago. Downtown Wilmington. Where the hell are we? Downtown Wilmington, right? When people or our guests got hungry, they walked down to the lobby and looked at the sign that said hotel or restaurant this way, our restaurant. And then they looked at the doors to Wilmington and all it had to offer. Okay. Now, once or twice, if they're there for a week, for convenience purposes, they'll may come to our restaurant, right? Other people came to a restaurant. Locals came to a restaurant because they liked their restaurant. But when you're in a place and you're visiting for a temporary period of time, you want to experience that place, right? Restaurant or hotel food is hotel food, really, right? Not really, but in some people's minds. So they look outside and there's Wilmington with all it has to offer. Wow, I'm going to go to, I've heard about this place, I've heard about that place within walking distance, right? That's great, right? Next week it's going to pour, right? It's going to be the worst weather in recorded history next week, right? We know that. We know that the weather forecast is bad. Now, what does that do to our sales at a restaurant where, like I just explained? Does the rain hurt? Okay, rain may hurt a burger stand, but it's not going to hurt us. It's actually going to help us a lot. Coming from being the sous chef at that restaurant or that hotel, we were swamped on rainy days. If our occupancy was high, if we have a high occupancy and it was a pouring rain, we were going to be busy than one-legged men in an asking contest. All right, we were going to be busy. All right, so all things to consider. It's good to look at these numbers, good to look at these words on a paper, on a page, and try to figure them out. But I really like for you to try to put that into practical things. So what we talked about this period of instruction, we talked about a lot of different things. Well, why do we forecast? So we know what we can expect, right? We forecast how many people we expect. We forecast the amount of money they're going to spend. We use that to better staff and to better buy. And then, but that's not the only thing, is it? We also look at those other things. So that is forecasting in a nutshell. Forecasting is important for the rest of this period, or for the rest of this course, because we're going to use a lot of forecasted numbers. Okay, so there we go. 3 videos. I would rather do it in 2, but there it goes. All right, I will see you in the discussion.